destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. Now, why is it so important in these 3 weeks that we find in ourselves this chisaron, this place in our heart where we are missing the Beit HaMikdash? Maggid Miduvna gives a beautiful analogy that through this analogy we can further really understand why it's so important to have pain and to feel the destruction of Beit HaMikdash. So Maggid Miduvna says that it's like one time there was a couple. That this couple was a young couple, that they got married, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu blessed this couple with all the blessings you can imagine. They had parnasah, they were happy, they had simcha, everything they touched, they were blessed. But there was one thing where HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't bless them with, and that was the blessing of kids. For all those years that they were married, HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't give them the merit that they were able to have kids. After many, many years that they were praying and doing tzedakot and doing everything in their power in order for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to merit them with the blessing of kids, one day the news breaks that the wife is pregnant. And that couple, they went into such an hysteric happiness. They couldn't believe that after all those prayers, after all those things that they did in order to have kids, finally HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them the merit that they would be able to have kids. Every single day that was passing, getting closer to the 9th month, was like another day of happiness, another day of one day closer to the day that they will be a mother and father. After those 9 months pass, those 9 months fill, the day comes where that couple needs to go to the hospital and deliver their child. They run to the hospital, they get to the hospital, and they take her into the room where people have their kids. And the husband is outside doing Tehillim, doing all his prayers that in order for to have an easy delivery, in order for the baby, in order for his wife to be born and be healthy, in order for everything to pass smoothly. After a couple of hours, the doctor comes out of the room and tells the father, "I have bad news to tell you." Now the father said, "What's this bad news?" He said, "It's a very, very hard delivery, and we're giving you now the choice in your hands to choose between or we save your son or we save your wife. But we won't be able to save both of them. So the choice is in your hands if you want your son to live or if you want your wife to live." So this husband, he said, "I can't make this decision based on my judgment. I have to ask my wife." He went to his wife, he entered the room, and he explained to his wife the situation. He explained to her that they will not be able to save her and the child, and they need to make a choice. Either they save her, or either they save the child. Now, Maggid Miduvna, he makes sure to point out that this entire story is speaking in an analogy, meaning this story cannot be compared to the halacha in the Shulchan Aruch regarding this subject. This subject in the Shulchan Aruch has different halachot, but this is just an analogy that we're able to learn musar and to learn from this story for these days. So the wife looked at her husband and she said, "You know, we lived days of happiness. We lived such good moments together. We had a full life of happiness and joy. We need to give the chance to our kid, to our son, to have that chance to have a good moment and to live a full life. Because me and you, we lived our full life already." And she made a decision that she rather that they save her son, and she's willing to give up her life. He left the room, and the doctor went into the delivery room, And the father was outside of the room crying, doing Tehillim, doing prayers, promising tzedakot, doing everything that in his power in order that Bezat Hashem will do some sort of miracle. After a couple of hours, the doctor comes out of the room and he's holding a baby in his hands. He walks up to the father and he hands this baby in the hands of the father and he tells him, Mazal Tov, this is your son. But I have to tell you, Baruch Dayana Emet on your wife. She passed away. Now, that day was a day of big happiness, of big joy, that this father, after so many years of praying and waiting for a son, he finally has a son. But also, it's the day that he's going to have to walk his wife down the graveyard. Throughout the entire life of that kid, it was a big mixture of happiness and big sadness. At the day of his Brit Milah, the day where the father is doing that mitzvah of putting his son under the Brit of Avraham Avinu, was also one day after he got up from Shiva. The day of the Pidyon HaBen, the day where the son does that mitzvah that many wish all their lives to be able to have the merit to do this mitzvah of Pidyon HaBen, was the 30th of his wife. When his son turned 1 year old, it was the closing of that 1 year of his wife. And every birthday to come of this child, of this kid, it was big happiness that, look, he has a son, but also that was the day where his wife put down her life in order to give her son a chance to live. Now, after 13 years filled up, after 13 years of mixture of big happiness, big sadness, the age of Bar Mitzvah came. And the father, his only son, this son that is concluded like as if it's his wife and his son put together, it's finally doing the first mitzvah will be considered to be Bar Mitzvah. He made an amazing Bar Mitzvah, the biggest Bar Mitzvah that existed at that time. And he invited the entire city and brought the best food and did the best of the best of the best for his only son. After the Bar Mitzvah, towards the end of the meal, the father walked up to his son and told his son, you know, today you turned Bar Mitzvah. Today is the first day that you are able to do Kaddish for your mother. Today is the first day that you are able to give back the favor to what your mother, that she gave her life to you. So when you do your first Kaddish, that you're allowed to do for your mother, do it with a lot of kavanah, do it with a lot of meaning. The father took the hand of his son and they stand up to do the first Kaddish. And the son gets up and he finishes the Kaddish in 2 seconds. He reads it and he finishes it. When the father sees his son, that he finishes the Kaddish in 2 minutes, he was shocked. He didn't understand what was going on. And the son walks up to him and he tells his father, you know, I did Kaddish, let's go home now. The son said, I don't understand. The father said, I don't understand. The first Kaddish that you're allowed to do, this is how you do it. With 2 seconds, that's how you repay your mother. You do this Kaddish as if you were reading a newspaper. The son looked at his father and he said, I don't understand. I did the Kaddish. That's it. I have no obligation to do more than that. The father fainted. Right away, all the guests, they run towards this kid. They tell this kid, I don't understand. Your mother, that she was such a good lady, she lived such a good life, she had everything in her life, but still she gave her life for you, and that's how you return the favor? You do your Kaddish, the first Kaddish that you're able to do, and you finish it in a minute or two. This kid looked at all the guests, and he told all the guests, I don't understand. You, that you knew my mother, you, that you knew what a special lady she was, you, that you have that peace in your heart that's missing, that you have something that's missing from my mother, you can feel emotion, you can feel pain that she's no longer here. But me, I never knew my mother. The day I was born, she died. She was never with me, not even a day of my life. Because I don't miss her, I don't have any pain for her, then there's no point to do Kaddish for my heart, because there's no space in my heart for my mother. Now, we can all imagine that if we were all there, we would look at this kid and tell this kid, to some point, shame on you. That this is how you repair your mother, this is how you give back, you return the favor to your mother. But the Maggid Miduvna says something amazing. He said that this story is not just an analogy. He says that this story, this kid, is not only that he was born, he is alive and he's breathing to this day. And who is this kid? This kid is every single one of us. If we don't find in ourselves the pain for Bet HaMikdash, if we don't find that place in our hearts where we have a piece that's missing from the Bet HaMikdash, then how can we want to do Geula? How can we want to do Teshuvah in order to bring back the Geula? And this is why Maggid Miduvna points out, and he says that it's so important for us to find in our hearts the pain for the destruction of Bet HaMikdash. Because if we don't have a place in our hearts that's missing, we'll never want to repair. If you're not missing something, you're not going to go after to achieve it, to go somewhere. And that is why it's very important in these 3 weeks that we find in ourselves and we make it not only just a custom of mourning, but each and every one of us need to sit down and really find in our hearts where we are missing, where we have this pain for the destruction of Bet HaMikdash. And only like that we will be able to find that place where we have that missing, that piece that's missing, in order to go after, to do the teshuvah, in order to bring the Geula. Now, another very important piece in order to bring back the Geula, in order to bring back the third Bet HaMikdash, is not only to have the pain for the destruction, it's also to recognize the reasons that the first and second Bet HaMikdash were destroyed in order to repair. Because if we don't repair those reasons, how can we bring the Geula? How can we bring the third Bet HaMikdash? The Midrash, Socher Tov, in Kuf Lamed Zayin, there he says something amazing. As well in the Yerushalmi, in Masechet Yoma, in page Aleph Amud Aleph. There it says, Kol dor vador, she'eno nivna Bet HaMikdash, ma'aleh alav hakatuv ki'ilu echrivu. Every single generation that comes, that the Bet HaMikdash was not built in that generation, that generation is considered to be the generation that destroyed the Bet HaMikdash. Why is that? Because the Midrash says that the same reasons and the same sins that our grandfathers did that brought the Bet HaMikdash to be destroyed are the same reasons that are avoiding the Bet HaMikdash to be rebuilt. Meaning that those same reasons that destroyed Bet HaMikdash are also the same reasons that are pushing and delaying the Geula. Now, Chafetz Chaim says that if those sins that destroyed Bet HaMikdash had enough power to destroy the home of Hashem, then imagine how easy it is and how much it's something that is muvan me'elav, that those sins will delay the Geula. Because if those sins had enough power to destroy the Bet HaMikdash, then I guarantee you those sins will have enough power to avoid the Bet HaMikdash being rebuilt from scratch. So that is why it's very important to also to look into the reasoning of why the Bet HaMikdash was destroyed. Now, in the Bavli, in Masechet Yoma, in Daf Tet, there, the Gemara asks a question. Why was the first Bet HaMikdash destroyed? So there the Gemara answers that the Bet HaMikdash, the first Bet HaMikdash, was destroyed for 3 reasons. The first reason was Avodah Zarah, that people prayed to statues, and they chas v'shalom recognized in other gods, chas v'shalom. The second sin was shfichut damim, murder. They were killing one another. And the third sin was gilu arayot. Gilu arayot, they were doing all the sins that have to do with the brit. And because of those three sins that, as we know, yareg velo yavor, those are the only three sins that a person, if those sins come to his hand, he needs to die and not do those sins. And because of those three sins, the first Bet HaMikdash was destroyed. So the Gemara asks, and what about the second Bet HaMikdash? What caused the second Bet HaMikdash to come to its destruction? So there the Gemara answers something amazing. There the Gemara answers that the reason that the second Bet HaMikdash was destroyed was only because of one sin. And that was because of the sin of Sinat Chinam, hatred. That there was no unity between Bnei Israel. That in Bnei Israel there was hate, there was wars, there was fighting between Bnei Israel. And that is what actually caused the destruction of the second temple. Now, something very amazing that we can see about this is, first of all, there's a question, because as we know, that the first Bet HaMikdash, there were much less Kohanim Gdolim, there were much less the main priests. As we know, in the first Bet HaMikdash, there were miracles that didn't occur in the second Bet HaMikdash. So how can you say that in the first Bet HaMikdash, they did those three sins that a person should die and not do, and in the second Bet HaMikdash, that many miracles did not occur because they were not worthy to receive those miracles? The Bet HaMikdash was only destroyed because of one sin. And I saw a beautiful pirush that actually says that both Bet HaMikdashes were destroyed because of the sin of hating one another, and because of the sin that there was no unity in Am Yisrael. And how is that? Actually, that in the first Bet HaMikdash, there were two groups that were formed. One group was the group that was keeping Torah and Mitzvot to its full, to its entirety. And the second group, that they were that group that was doing those three sins of Gilu Arayot, Avodah Zarah, and Shfichut Damim. But what happened was that group that was keeping the Torah completely grew and made such a hate for those sinners, where they got used to hating. That even that hate was a hate that was L'Shem Shamayim, because they got used to hating one another, it already became a part of their daily mindset that caused the first Bet HaMikdash to be destroyed and caused the second Bet HaMikdash to be destroyed. But Rabotai, what we see is very interesting about this concept, that actually the first Bet HaMikdash was destroyed for three sins that a person needs to die and not pass on these three sins. And the second Bet HaMikdash was destroyed because of one sin. We can see something very, very big from this. We can see that in that one sin of a lack of unity, that one sin of hating a person, that one sin of looking at someone and finding no reason but to hate for this person, is actually as bad as those three sins that a person needs to die and not go back and not go and do those three sins. And maybe we can even say something even worse. We can say that one sin of hating another person is even worse than that. Why is that? Because hating a person is only one sin, and the other three sins are three sins. So doing one sin, you are able to do as much destruction as doing three sins. Now, another point that I found very, very interesting, that the first Bet HaMikdash that was destroyed because of those three horrible sins, after 70 years, HaKadosh Baruch Hu already forgave them for those sins. After 70 years, Bnei Israel already did a complete tshuva, because after 70 years, HaKadosh Baruch Hu already built the second temple. But for the sin of hating one another, till this very day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not do a complete forgiveness, and we did not do a complete teshuvah. Because if we were to do a complete teshuvah on Sinat Chinam, the third temple will be built and the Geulah would come upon us. Now, to go to that reason of Sinat Chinam, why the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, I want to mention a very famous story in the Gemara in Masechet Gittin, in page Nun Hey Amud Bet, of Kamsa Ubar Kamsa. The Gemara tells us that there was a very, very rich man that had two people, that their name was Kamsa. One person was his best friend that was named Kamsa, and his biggest enemy was named Bar Kamsa. The Gemara says that one day this rich man was making an event, and he told some of his helpers, some of his employees, make sure you invite Kamsa, my best friend. But those employees, they mistaken Kamsa for Bar Kamsa, and they ended up inviting his biggest enemy, Bar Kamsa. When this event came, this rich man is going through his guests and he sees his biggest enemy, Bar Kamsa, sitting with his guests. He right away approaches Bar Kamsa and tells Bar Kamsa, what are you doing here? So Bar Kamsa says, I received an invitation, and when I saw your invitation, I thought you wanted to do peace, so I came. So this rich man said, under no circumstances, I want you right now to leave this event. Now Bar Kamsa looked at this rich man and he said, listen, there's so many people here. Don't embarrass me in front of everyone. Let me pay for my meal and I will go. But don't kick me out in front of everyone. This rich man said, under no circumstances, you are my biggest enemy. I order you to leave right now. Bar Kamsa looked at the rich man and he said, let me pay for half of your event, but don't shame me in front of everyone and kick me out of the building. This rich man looked at Bar Kamsa and he said, there's no way. You will not pay for half of my event. I want you right now to get up and to go. Bar Kamsa took his last chance, begging this rich man to not embarrass him in front of everyone. He said, I will pay for your entire event. Just don't shame me in front of everyone. The Gemara says that this rich man had Bar Kamsa removed physically and shamed in front of everyone at that event. When Bar Kamsa was shamed in front of everyone, Bar Kamsa thought to himself and he said, there were big tzaddikim, there were big tanaim at that event. All the Gdolei Israel were sitting down at that event and they didn't get up and support and say, don't embarrass this person. If all these Gdolei Israel, if all these big tzaddikim in Am Israel, it was okay with them that they kicked me out and they shamed me, then that means that these people don't deserve to do and to keep the Torah mitzvot the way that they keep Torah mitzvot. So Bar Kamsa, a bad thought came to his mind that he will go to the Roman Empire and he will try to do something that in order for the Roman Empire to come and to destroy Yerushalayim, to destroy Beit HaMikdash. The Gemara says that Bar Kamsa went to the Roman king, the big leader of the Roman Empire, and he told them, Bnei Israel betrayed you. They went against you. So the Roman king looked at Bar Kamsa and said, where do you get this proof? From where do you learn that the Jews betrayed me? So Bar Kamsa said, give me sheep, give me cattle, let me take it down to Yerushalayim, to the Beit HaMikdash, and let's see if they will sacrifice it in your name. So the Roman king said, you're right, let's test it. So he gave him sheep, he gave him cattle to take down to Yerushalayim in order to see if the Jews will sacrifice it. The Gemara says that on the way to Yerushalayim, Bar Kamsa took all those sheep and he put a defect in them. And as we know that we are not allowed in the Beit HaMikdash the Kohanim were not allowed to sacrifice any sacrifice that is defective. So when they brought the sheep, when they brought all the cattle to the Beit HaMikdash, the Kohanim, they looked at this and they said, we can't do any sacrifice out of this. But the Kohanim understood that Bar Kamsa is trying to do something. Bar Kamsa is trying to make a mess and to make a big punishment upon Bnei Israel. The Gemara says that the Kohanim went to the Gdolei Israel and discussed maybe they should even sacrifice these sacrifices with defect, but in order to not chas v'shalom bring bad punishment on Am Yisrael. Chachamim decided that under no circumstances will they go and sacrifices that are defective. So Chachamim said, if we're not going to sacrifice these sacrifices that are defective, then we have to kill Bar Kamsa. Because if we don't kill Bar Kamsa is going to go to the Roman Empire and say that we don't want to sacrifice his sacrifices, and chas v'shalom, who knows what can happen. Rabbi Zechariah got up and he said, under no circumstances will we kill a person because he defected a sheep. Because a person defected a sheep, he deserved chas v'shalom the punishment of killing him. The Gemara says that the rest of Chachamim agreed with Rabbi Zechariah, and they decided to let Bar Kamsa do whatever it is he wants to do, and to leave faith in the hands of Hashem. The Gemara says that Bar Kamsa went to the Roman Empire and he did what he did, and the Roman Empire decided that it was time that since Bnei Israel betrayed the Roman Empire, it was time that Bnei Israel paid the price for going against and betraying the Romans. The Gemara says that the Roman king sent Neron Caesar. Neron Caesar was one of the big generals of the Roman Empire to go to Yerushalayim and to destroy Yerushalayim. The Gemara says that when he got to the gates of Yerushalayim, he didn't have the audacity to even think of destroying the Yerushalayim and the Beit HaMikdash. So Neron said, I'm going to do a test to see really if it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu that sent me to destroy Beit HaMikdash, or it's really just the king, the Roman king, and I will be punished chas v'shalom if I destroy the Beit HaMikdash. The Gemara says that he took a bow and arrow and he shot an arrow to the sky, the opposite direction of Yerushalayim. The Gemara said that arrow would turn around and fall where? Fall back in Yerushalayim. And every direction where he was throwing and shooting arrows, every arrow would turn, no matter what direction it was shot, turn and fall back in Yerushalayim. So Neron said, this is the sign that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants me to destroy Yerushalayim. But I have to do one more test. So Neron walked through the streets of Yerushalayim and he grabbed the Jewish boy. And he told the Jewish boy, tell me the pasuk that you learned in Beit HaMikdash today. This Jewish boy looked at Neron and told him the pasuk that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave the revenge in the hands of Edom. He gave in the hands of Edom the punishment when Bnei Israel do something chas v'shalom that is bad. Right away, Neron understood that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants him to destroy HaKadosh Baruch Hu's home. But he thought to himself and he said, even though HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants me to destroy his home, I am going to be punished for destroying his home. So under no circumstances will I destroy his home, even though he wants me to destroy it. The Gemara says that Neron ran away and he did teshuvah. The Gemara says that because Neron did teshuvah, who was one of his grandchildren? Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes. That Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes was actually one of the grandchildren of Neron Caesar, the one that almost destroyed Beit HaMikdash. The Gemara continues on and says that actually from that story of Bar Kamsa, that story brought the destruction of the second Beit HaMikdash. Abotai, we can learn from here that from this one avera, of hating another one, this one avera of finding in someone's heart to hate another person, how bad, chas v'shalom, the outcome can be. How hating someone can only bring destruction to this world. The Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, in page Lamed Bet, there says something very, very scary. The Gemara says that a person that has sinat chinam, a person that has hate for another Jew, his punishment is very, very bad. The Gemara asks, what is the punishment for a person like that? The Gemara said that chas v'shalom, a person who hates and has sinat chinam, his punishment is that when his kids will be young, they will die. And that when his wife will be pregnant, she will never be able to pass her 9 months. Abotai, that avera of hating chas v'shalom one another can only bring destruction, chas v'shalom, and can only bring bad to this world. It's a beautiful analogy of what is really the concept of hating, of when a Jew hates one another. Chavetz Chaim actually says that when a Jew hates another Jew and looks to bring harm on his fellow Jew friend, actually the only harm that he is doing is for himself. Because the Chavetz Chaim says it's known that the neshamot of Bnei Israel are all connected to one neshama. That actually when a Jew harms another Jew, he's actually harming himself. The Gemara gives an example. It's like a person that was using a knife, and he was holding the knife with his right hand, and he cut his left hand with his right hand. Will his left hand grab the knife and cut the other hand? Why? Because it's the same person. So how us Jews can find in ourselves, even if we give a reason, he did this, he did that, to hate one another, when really we're only bringing harm to ourselves. Now, as we know, Abotai, this 3 weeks, the end of the 3 weeks, is what? Tisha B'Av. In Tisha B'Av, what do we read? In Tisha B'Av, we read the Megillah of Eicha. The Megillah of Eicha speaks about all the tragic stories that happened throughout the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. It speaks about all the horrific things that went on in the destruction of Beit HaMikdash. If we look at the first pasuk of Megillat Eicha, what is the first pasuk? Eicha yashva bedad ha'ir. If we take the first letter of each word of the first pasuk, what comes out? Oiva. Hate. That actually the story of Eicha, this Megillah of Eicha, was brought to the world. Why? Because of hate. So in order to make this story of Eicha far from reality, and in order to make sure that the story of Eicha will never repeat itself, what do we have to do? We need to make sure that this concept of hating one another is far from our mindset. Because if this concept of hating one another is in our mindset and in our daily life, chas v'shalom, we can bring back the Megillah and the story, the horrific story of Eicha. Now, this destruction that comes to the world when one hates another is not just in this world. The effects of hating one another is actually, it goes to the other world. In the Gemara in Masechet Brachot, in Daf Vav, in page 6, there the Gemara says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like every one of us, put on tefillin every single day. But in the tefillin of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it doesn't have the 4 parashiyot that we have. Of Kadesh Likol Bechor, V'Yakev Yacha, Shema V'Ayim Shama. In the tefillin of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there is one pasuk. And what is that one pasuk? Mi ka'amecha Yisrael, goy echad ba'aretz. my nation Israel are like one person. They are united like one person in the world. Rabotay, if we don't have unity between us, actually, what are we doing? We are taking the tefillin of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and proving them to be fake, for them to be not true. Because if we don't have unity, if we are not like one person, that pasuk that's in the tefillin of HaKadosh Baruch Hu mean nothing. So Rabotai, we see that the concept of hating one another has not only bad effects in this world, but actually the destruction that hating one another has is on this world, on the world to come, on worlds that are above us and worlds that we don't have reach to. But still, hating one another finds its way to bring destruction to those places. Now, Rabotai, to finish everything up, I have a simple question. If I came to you and I asked you, would you be interested in donating and building and having even one brick of the third Beit HaMikdash under your name? Will there be a price on even putting one brick in the Beit HaMikdash under your name? Every single person will sell everything he has in order to say that I built one piece in the Beit HaMikdash. So Rabotai, right now, actually, each and every one of us have that chance to get up and say that the piece of the Beit HaMikdash was built under my name. How is that? If we do teshuvah. If every single person does his own teshuvah and looks at himself and eliminates that concept of hating one another and finds the space to love each person and finds something to love of each person, only like that we will be able to bring back the teshuvah and the geulah, and only like that we will be able to build the third Beit HaMikdash. Because if the first and second Beit HaMikdash were destroyed because of that concept of hate, then the third Beit HaMikdash will be built on that concept of finding a place in our hearts for each and every single one of us Jews. So Bezrat Hashem, that we all pass these 3 weeks B'Shalom, and Bezrat Hashem, that we all in these 3 weeks find the place of pain in our hearts and where that piece is missing of the Beit HaMikdash, in order where we will have the hunger to do teshuvah and in order to have the hunger to bring back the Geulah Beit Hashem.